Exercise 6.2 says enter the following transactions for Dr. J.H. Banks, dental surgeon, into the creditors journal for May 2006. So let's quickly go and give our CJ a heading. It's the CJ of Dr. J.H. Banks, dental surgeon, for May 2006. May is the 5th month of the year, so it will be CJ number 5. Then your transaction starts on the 3rd. It says dentist tools, which will be seen as equipment, are purchased on credits. In other words, it affects the creditor's journal. From the toolbar, creditor number 1 for 760 Rand. We received their invoice number 61, but we won't use that number because we renumber invoices. And in this case, we renumbered to number 45. So in the CJ, it will be invoice number 45. On the 3rd, the creditor was the toolbar, creditor number 1. The value must go to creditor's control and somewhere else. In this case, dentist tools are seen as equipment. The next transaction on the 6th said receive a new photocopier, which will also be equipment, from Samsung, creditor number 2. Receive an invoice, so these two words indicate it's a CJ transaction, for 3,000 Rand, and we will pay the account in installments for 6 months. But we don't care about the repayment for now, we just have to record the purchase in the CJ. We would have renumbered the invoice to number 46 on the 6th. The creditor's name is Samsung, creditor number 2. The value will have to go to creditor's control and to equipment because a photocopier is seen as equipment. Then on the 15th, repairs were done to the dentist chair on account, and it just indicates that it must be recorded in the CJ. The charge was 1,200 Rand, invoice number 155, but we won't use that number because we renumber invoices, received from Handy Andy, creditor number 3. So we will renumber it to invoice 47. The date is the 15th. The creditor is Handy Andy, creditor number 3. The value will go to creditor's control and to repairs in the sundry accounts section. Remember to use this folio column to reference your general ledger. And if you look at your general ledger on the next page, repairs is nominal account number 2. Then on the 16th, we buy materials for tooth caps and fillings. Now this is interesting. What will it be? This is what we will use to actually render the service. So we call this consumables. Okay. We bought it from Dental Supplies, creditor number 4 for 2,700 Rand. Now in this transaction, they didn't specify that it's on credit or on account. Okay, so in a test or in an activity that I set, I will always tell you that it's on account or that it's on credit, or I will say that an invoice was received so that you are not confused whether we bought it with cash or we purchased it on credit. Okay, in this case, it goes to the CJ, renumber the invoice on the 16th, Dental Supplies, creditor number 4, the value goes to creditor's control and consumables. Then on the 22nd, we receive an invoice from LL Packing, creditor 5 for packing materials. The amount is 120 Rand. The fact that we received an invoice tells you it's a CJ transaction. Renumber that invoice to 49. It's on the 22nd, LL Packing, creditor number 5, 120 Rand. There's no packing materials column, so it goes to sundry accounts. And remember to reference the general ledger. If you look on the next page, packing material is nominal account number 1. Then we're almost done. On the 28th, we bought a new lounge set on account from Wembley's. Okay, on account means that it is a CJ transaction. Creditor number 6 for the reception area. We were charged 8,000 Rand. And they tell you it goes to furniture and fittings. So we will renumber the invoice to 50. The date is the 28th. Wembley's is the creditor. The folio is creditor number 6. 8,000 Rand to creditors control, and then there's no furniture and fittings column, so it goes to sundry accounts. And furniture and fittings is balance sheet account number 2, if you look on the next page. And then right at the end, remember to total your columns, and remember to reference the general ledger for the column totals just below the total. Now, before we can tackle the posting to the general ledger, I want you to do what I always want you to do when you start a general ledger. I want you to quickly go through each account and classify the account in brackets next to the account's name as either an asset, owner's equity, or liability account, and make the plus and minus signs based on dead and click. Okay, so the first account that we have is equipment. Equipment is an asset, and assets are the A of dead, so they increase on the debit side. Furniture and fittings, balance sheet account number 2, is also an asset that increases on the debit side. Creditors control, however, is not an asset. The account's name means that we owe people money, so it's a liability, and the L of liability is the L of click. So creditors control actually increase on the credit side. Remember that, because this is a new account. Then packing materials. Packing materials is an expense, owner's equity expense, that increases on the debit side because the E for expenses is the E of dead. And repairs is also an expense that increases on the debit side, as well as consumable stores. Now, when you look at your creditors journal, if we want to post the creditors journal, the posting rule is that creditors control, the main column, goes to the side where creditors control increase, the credit side, because our liability got bigger. We bought more and more and more on account. Okay, so let's take this total at the end of May to the credit side of creditors control. Remember to write the month and the year, May 2006. It's a column total that will be posted on the last day of May, the 31st. In creditors control, because this is the main account, we write total something. And we can't write total payments because we haven't paid yet, but we've bought stuff. So we write total purchases. The journal that goes to the folio is the CJ, and the value was 15,780 Rand. If you look at the CJ, every amount went to creditors control and somewhere else. And if we just credited creditors control with this total value, it means that all the other accounts must be debited. And in all the other accounts, we will write creditors control because they all add up to the total that's on the credit side of creditors control. Okay, so let's start with equipment. This 3,760 Rand in equipment will go to the debit side of the equipment account. Because it's a column total, you will post it on the 31st of May 2006. The contra account is creditors control. We're working with the CJ and the value was 3,760 Rand. The next value, the 2,700 Rand, this will go to the debit side of consumables. And in consumables, you will post it at the end of the month because it's a column total. The contra account will be creditors control. The journal is the CJ, the value was 2,700 Rand. Then we are done posting the column total, so we can go and post sundry accounts. Remember, the only difference is they're not posted at the end of the month, they're posted on the day when the transaction took place. So this 1,200 Rand should go to repairs, and the date of the transaction was the 15th. So in repairs, you write May 2006, but you don't write 31, you write the 15th. The contra account is still creditors control. It's still from the CJ, and it's 1,200 Rand. The next sundry accounts transaction was 120 Rand that should go to the debit side of packing material on the 22nd. So in packing materials, you will write May 2006, the 22nd, creditors control, CJ, 120 Rand. And then lastly, we've got this 8,000 Rand that should go to furniture and fittings on the 28th. It still goes to the debit side of furniture and fittings. You will write May 2006, the 28th. Creditors control CJ, 8,000 Rand.